Allow yourself to play in your desire. Allow yourself to have it, to hold, to play in it. If lots of doubts are coming up, that means your desire has the capacity to stretch you. Your past identity, or who you've been, and what that old identity was comfortable with or familiar with, and what it thought possible for you, rather than listening to that old identity and all those doubts and anxieties, allow yourself to open to and play in your desire. That means feeling your body's and mind's resistances and digesting them rather than believing them and letting them stop you or arrest you in your tracks, so to speak, and keep you very limited and small. So, this is a process of energetically priming or preparing yourself, especially at that body centered level, for that new reality through your persistence and allowing yourself to hold it and play in it and to visualize and feel into it. And eventually, your body and your mind will catch up the more that you consistently practice and persist and allowing yourself to hold this vision, this desire, and to enjoy playing in that desire in your mind and within your heart space. So, this is calling for you to use your imagination and focus more on your internal reality than the things in your external reality. Those things that may seem very limiting, or all these reasons your logical mind has for rejecting and resisting and doubting what you really want. What you resist persists. I think we know this by now. And if we don't, it's time to really learn that at a body-centered level, that what we resist persists. It's possible if you adopt the position of a kind and loving, compassionate parent to give yourself permission to really digest chunks of your resistances, pain, fear, anger, shame, whatever that might be for you, and grief by crying, shaking, whatever that is. Sometimes that'll come out for me in the form of tremoring a little bit, where it's nothing crazy, but it helps my body release what I've resisted, what I've doubted and felt very anxious about in my body, anxious to step into, but what is actually out there for me and what I really want that's aligned with this higher lifeline, if you will, that is actually for me. I just haven't fully aligned with that particular lifeline yet. And the key word is yet, but I am aligning with it by allowing myself to really process and digest my emotions, my resistant, fearful, anxious emotions through my body. So, again, I'm going to say, please get in the practice, if you can, of allowing yourself to be a kind, compassionate witness for yourself, a kind, loving, compassionate parent, even if you never had that parent. And I can say I never had that parent myself. So, this is something I've had to learn to become for myself. And I'm still learning how to do it. It's not a perfect process. I have days and weeks and moments where I feel more ready for that and able to do that more consistently for myself. And then other moments where I feel just worn down by life, and that's not so easy. And I have more resistances coming up related to that. And I'm not always willing to feel those particular anxieties or fears because maybe they feel a little too big in that moment. So that's also important to recognize and allow yourself to sit with that and be self-compassionate around anything that's coming up for you. With the more, you essentially allow yourself to be present with yourself, and that really includes being present with your body, allowing yourself to get out of your mind by reminding yourself kindly, not shut up mind. You don't want to be that shaming, angry parent at yourself, but more of a, okay, I know in order to process and digest these emotions that are coming up for me, lately for me, there's been some anger and some grief coming up, especially. I need to be very present with myself. I need to keep reminding myself my intention, come back to the strong intention of to be in your body and out of your mind And if you stay in that space and you are able to hold a compassionate, loving space for yourself without shaming or allowing yourself to get distracted by going into a mental loop and that temptation, especially early on, to keep going into a mental loop to distract from being present with yourself because we've had, wow, decades of practice of being distracted. The larger culture, our family structures most of the time, the TV, the media we consume, oftentimes there's distraction after distraction, usually. So we've really trained ourselves to do the opposite, and society certainly programs us to do the opposite, to be distant from ourselves, to distract from our bodies and from our present moment experience. So if you can essentially reverse that, flip the script on what you've been programmed to do, and take safe space in your room, in your house, wherever you have private, quiet space, to be that kind, loving, compassionate parent that I think most of us didn't have, but maybe some. Really hold that space and remind yourself as thoughts come up to try to distract you from being present with yourself. And that's normal and natural based on all of the programming we've got. And for many of you, this may be your first few experiences attempting to be present with your body. So wherever you are, that is perfect and beautiful, and it's worth honoring. And just to be persistent and allowing yourself to feel those painful emotions coming up, whatever those may be. So that is one way that you can digest these painful emotions. And really, the key to being present with your body and not your mind, you want to keep moving your attention back to your body and dropping every impulse that you have, allowing it gently to drop, every impulse you have to analyze or judge your emotions, feelings, and of course, your body sensations too. If you start shaking or crying loudly or yawning, or it can express in so many different ways when you're allowing emotions to move and digest through you. However that expresses for you, it's important to keep reminding yourself, even if this is foreign at first, that my intention is to be present with myself and to keep coming back to my body. And if my mind has judgments or wants to try to analyze this and stop this from this processing, to not judge that and to not analyze that and to not stop it. These practices are designed to help you learn to become more present with yourself and help to move and process, digest old stuck emotions that are oftentimes lodged in different parts of our body, to help digest and move that out of our system so we can free up more energy and more space to focus on the things we actually really want to create in this life. And we can stop feeling so limited, so small, holding ourselves back, and identifying so strongly with an old, heavily programmed identity that we took on, usually as children, and have obviously adapted in different ways as we've aged and become adults. But much of that was learned and adapted in early childhood. So I just want to say that this process, again, I'm always going to encourage you to be safe while being with yourself in this present way. I just want to cover all bases here and make sure that if you do have any health conditions that you check in with the appropriate medical professional. This process of being present with yourself, allowing to move, allowing yourself by being that compassionate witness with and for yourself in that moment, or caring, loving parent, really can free up a lot of space within you and allow you to become more open to creating what you actually do want instead of what you don't want, that you're quite frankly tired of, and you'd rather be living in a higher reality that feels like this is how I should be living, but somehow I'm not still, because I still have a lot of stuck places within, and I still find myself mentally looping, analyzing so much in my life from a negative perspective and frame. That's a lot of the reason why we're not able to create higher new circumstances that we really desire in life. It's a loop between our body and mind, our logical mind. A lot of us who do this, analyze everything in our lives, are quite intelligent, naturally intelligent. And we also live in a society that's heavily masculine, where logic, reasoning, analysis has been celebrated, and that is really the norm and the consciousness of our larger society. However, we've learned that, and so if we had those abilities, especially intelligent people who've had those abilities, we usually amplified them by honing that skill set further. And because we had a natural ability for that, and whatever jobs we might have been drawn to valued that to some degree, that ability. So maybe that's a little too fine tuned, that analytical ability. And that may be part of what is making it harder for you. I think that's the case in my case. It made it harder for me, I think, to really get out of my mind, get out of these mental loops and back into my body and to be present with myself. That coupled with the fact that I didn't have that real nurturing growing up and that unconditionally loving environment, right? So I've had to learn over time and practice how to allow my mind to more so settle into my heart progressively more and more. And some days that's easier than others, to allow myself to not be so analytical and allow my mind to always be kicking up reasons as to why this and that. And oh, and to be doubtful about this manifestation or that thing that I want, and to come up with all these reasons to stay small and limited and keep playing it safe in what's familiar for me. And your brain is just doing that because what's familiar for you is your old identity, right? So you have these past experiences and your mind can get on board with repetition of the same old experiences, or if you've been in the same job for a long time, your mind can be very supportive of continuing in that job logically because it's predictable, right? That's aligned with your safety and protection and your seeming ability to keep paying your bills the same old way, right? So your mind will support the same old experiences. Or if you've gone to the same place on a vacation every single year, the mind can logically rationalize, oh, yeah, we do this every year. That's fine. But if, say, you want to go somewhere else that you've never gone before that's much further away, maybe on the other side of the world, and it's going to cost more money, but this is one larger dream you've had for yourself for a long time, and you've never given yourself permission to even think about it. But maybe that's something that is really there for you, and that you, if you allow yourself to work with your doubts, work with your anxieties and fears, and start to process them more through your body and sit with that potential that feels very scary and anxiety inducing because there's a lot of unknowns. Maybe you've never left on a vacation for more than a couple days or a week, and this trip would be more a 2 week or three week trip. And it's also to some place you've never been. There's all these things, might be having to drive on the other side of the road. There's pet sitting. There's taking time off work. So many different factors that are going to come up and cause perhaps anxiety and doubt in you, whether you can be brave enough to attempt this trip that is outside of the scope of what's been familiar for your old identity, because again, it hasn't aligned with anything you've done in the past. So it's very common for your mind, your logical mind, to be bringing up a lot of doubt and a lot of fear and anxiety. But it's also important to know that these are just thoughts. These are just fears. These are your body's survival mechanisms pumping some chemicals through your body, those fear-inducing chemicals that want to get your mind trying to figure out and fix and ultimately probably talk you out of having this new possibility, this new adventure that is, in a way, a level up or two for your current identity. Because your current identity is starting to open to this possibility and think, this is what I want to do. And I know I want to do it before this body passes. And really, the time is now. And I have a little extra money and I really want to try to make it happen. There's going to be stuff that comes up for you. This is just one example. It could be buying a house. It could be changing careers, right? Some bigger thing. That means it's big enough, this thing that you desire, and it may be multiple things, but we're just using this trip as an example of one thing. This thing that you desire is big enough that it's challenging your old identity. It's challenging those parts of you that have really tried to keep you in your safety zone. So you feel comfortable. So your body chemistry doesn't have to feel challenged. So you don't have to challenge your mind, body, heart space to begin to live in that desire, play in that desire. It wants to stop you with all these fear based thoughts and anxious emotions and doubts. Wants to try to stop that and talk you out of this thing that is aligned for you. So you'll stay in your current or past, more so your past familiar identity, and you won't grow beyond that identity. You just won't have the courage to even try to grow beyond that identity. So it's important to realize that the things we desire, they're real. They are for us. We wouldn't desire them if they weren't for us. They're there for a reason, and they're encouraging us to say yes. I want to align with this higher possibility for myself. And I know that this is going to challenge me, this old identity. And so there is going to be this time when you have these desires coming up that are really for you, that will challenge you, and whether you are going to shut them down because of the fear or the anxiety is overpowering you and you're just not willing or ready to take that step beyond and actually take that step into this new you, this new reality, because there always is a growth. There always is an identity shift that happens when we're willing to move beyond who we've been, who we took ourselves to be, and the fears and the resistances that are like tied and woven into that to become this greater potential, this person who, wow, actually had this amazing experience that she or he or them, they really wanted, and actually had that experience and realized, wow, I built up all this fear around this thing I really wanted. And yes, it was challenging at times. And yes, it did stretch me. And yes, I had to invest quite a bit into it. I had to invest some money and some time and had to work through a lot of emotional stuff. That'll probably be the hardest part of it, more than the money and the time, is the working through, especially if it's a bigger goal, stretching, like that's really going to stretch you, working through the emotional resistance in your body that's coming up, that's playing where your logical mind and your body sensations are working together to stir up this like fear-based, anxious, doubtful type of energy. And so that is going to be the greatest thing that comes up for you to overcome, so you can essentially level up your identity and be the kind of person who actually has given yourself permission to have these experiences and now just had one and realized, oh, it really wasn't nearly as scary as my body made it up to be. In fact, I really enjoyed this. Of course, there were some challenges traveling place, a country, especially that you've never been to, unfamiliar for a longer period of stretch of time, all of that. There's going to be some challenges and more growth opportunities, but you actually realize you enjoyed yourself, or if it's a house or whatever it might be, whatever that dream might be, new career. So that is important to notice, that this moment of realization is coming up for you to work with who you've been. Allow it, give it some grace without believing too much about what it's saying, realizing these are doubts, these are fears, and these are thoughts. These are not a definitive, objective anything, reality of what really is. These are just feelings based on who I have taken myself to be, what I have made familiar in my life, how I've identified with so far. But that doesn't mean I have to keep playing in this particular pond, this particular identity for the rest of my life and never grow from here. You have the ability to grow beyond who you've been.